Hey guys, this is Joe Metalone, and today we're going to take a look at the watch module in AngularJS. So, if you're coming from a jQuery background, you're probably used to some sort of event handler. When anything changes on the website or a select field or an on-click or something like that, the watch module in AngularJS is basically a replacement for that. So especially coming from a jQuery background, the watch module is going to become your best friend. Here we have just a basic page, and we'll jump in and let's see, ng app equals app. Okay, so we've got Bootstrap and we've got Angular here, just to keep things clean. And so let's start building our app. App and no dependencies, and what we're going to do is we're going to create a controller. We're going to load up some data from fill text, just to kind of get things rolling here so that we have something that we can change. So controller, the controller, and into that we will inject scope and HTTP. So there's our scope and our HTTP. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a function that loads up some data from fill text, and then we're going to create a select field that lets us change the amount of data that we want to get. Just nice and simple. So we're going to create a function called getPeople. And that's going to take a variable called count, which is going to be the amount of rows of data that we want to get. So HTTP, JSONP, and filltext.com rows equals, we'll just, what do we got here? Count. And then we're just going to say name equals first name, and then of course we need our callback, which is going to be JSON callback, and then on the success of that, take our data and we'll say scope.people equals data. Okay, so there's our method for getting people, passing an account, the amount of people that we want to get in our data. Now we need to set that. So what we're going to do is we're going to set a count selection variable, and we're going to start off with 10. And then we are going to go ahead and set up our, we're going to say get people. So scope.getPeople, and we're going to pass in our scope selection, or account selection. So let's go ahead and use that data up here. So div.container, and we'll do so let's do our repeater first. So div, we'll do ng repeat, equals so person in people, and then we'll do an input field here, and we'll bind that to person.fname. So person.firstname. Let's take a look at that. Oh, you know what? We don't have the controller, so let's add that here. And the controller equals the controller. Okay, so let's take a look at that really quick. Nothing. What did we do wrong? Controller, the controller. Let's check our dev tools. Count selection is not defined. Yes, it is. It should be scope.count collection. Let's refresh that, and now we've got a bunch of fields with all the people in it. Awesome. Okay, so now let's say we want to create something that lets us change the amount of people or the amount of records that we've gotten. So let's create a select field here. I don't really need all that. What we're going to do is, so we're going to bind this to the, what do we call it, count selection. Okay, and then let's build this out with ng options. So options equals number for number in, and we'll just pass in an array 5, 10, 15, and 20, and I think we're good there. So let's load that up. So we've got this here, but it doesn't do anything right now. Nothing happens. So that's where watch comes in, where we want to say, hey, when I do that, reset everything, or do something when that happens. So scope.watch, no, sorry, yeah, no, that was fine. What we want to do is watch for that value to change, and since it's a variable in our scope, that's exactly what watch is for. There's also observe, which is, my understanding is that it's meant for watching or observing attributes, specifically attributes on directives. But for this instance, we're just using watch, and we're watching a variable that is in our scope. So we're watching the count selection, and then we're going to pass in, and this is basically our listener. And what the listener takes in is the new version of count selection when count selection has changed, and it takes in the old version of count selection. And so basically what we can say is, you know, if we've got a new value, then let's just go ahead and call this again, but in this case we're going to pass in the new value, and let me just write that out for you. Value, and what we want to use is the new value. So let's try that again. Refresh this. We'll change it to 15, and now we've got 15, 5, now we've got 5. So you can see it's actually updating this on the screen for us in real time. Every time I change that, it's updating it. So that's awesome. Now, one thing to show you here, let's see, what are we going to do? Let's, up here right below the select, let's throw in an H1, and let's display the first value. So people 0.fname, so that'll be the first name, whatever's in there. So now we got Miriam, now we got Kayla, and we can see, you know, hey, that's, you know, that's totally mapped to that that value in our data. Now, we told this to watch the selection. Let's try watching the actual array of people, and what we'll do is let's add another scope, watch. Have this out a little bit, and now we're going to watch people, and here's our listener function. And again, it's going to take in the new and the old. And let's see. First, let's just console log something here. So console log new. And let's bring up our dev tools in our console. Refresh that. And now, right off the bat, one thing you can see is that it ended up logging that twice, which is no good. So, well, I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter, but you might find yourself in a situation where it does matter. So what we can do in that case is we can say if new not equal old, then do the whatever we want to do, and in this case the console log. So awesome. Whoa, we got two people, new, old, people. You know why? Because we had this initial get people. And we don't need that anymore because we actually already set a value for that. So it's so this watch on the count selection gets called as soon as we set this. So when I refresh here, you can see we've only got one console.log there. Okay, so let's create a new value, and just because I want to show you something that you might run into. So let's say scope.when change. So we're gonna say, you know, this is when it was changed. So date dot to string, that should work. And then let's put that right underneath this. So let's say paragraph when changed. So now when we reload this, we don't need our we don't need our dev tools anymore. When I refresh, you can see 08, 10, 12. So you know I'm refreshing every couple seconds. All right, so that's happening. That's updating. But one thing that's going to not happen is so we can see that you know the variable called people is changing. When I'm changing this person's name, it's changing, but it's not being reflected here. I refresh this as 33, and when I change it here, it is not being reflected there. So there's an additional value that the watch module can take, and that tests for object equality. Whoops, whoa, okay. That tests for object equality, and so when you're doing, so the default on that is false, and I'm going to call that the shallow check. It basically says, yep, I've still got, you know, the array or whatever still has the same amount of keys and the same amount of the same length or whatever. It just looks at it at a very shallow level. But when we pass in true on object equality, it does a deep evaluation of the object equality. So I refresh this here, and again, you know, we've still got, you know, our things are changing, and we're getting that time. So 29 right there. But now when I come in here and change this, you can see that the second's updated. Let me zoom this in for you and refresh. Okay, so let's go to 20, and we can see it's 42 right there. And now when I change this value, we should see that time update. So, and as long as I'm typing, it's going to keep updating that value. So it's monitoring that the actual value is changed. So that's what I'm going to call, again, you know, the deep evaluation, where it's testing for that object equality. So there you go. That's a quick look at the watch module and how it's used. And again, like I said in the beginning, if you're coming from a jQuery background and you know you want to say, you know, on change or on click or something like that, there are methods for that in the declarative HTML, like ng-click and so forth. But if you're changing something in your scope, a variable in your scope, you really want to look at watch. So there you go. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a good one.